Lawyers, don't get caught naked without professional liability, office business insurance with data breach, and workers' comp. Your host, Michael Carroll, is the country's leading expert for these areas. He knows what you need to properly protect your law firm. That's not all. Michael also talks to top lawyers and top business experts on how to increase revenues. It all makes sense. Cover all bases for your law business to eliminate being caught naked. Here's Michael.
Today's show is going to again be a huge hit with you as I have Richard James, who is the president of Automated Business Results. Richard's company teaches lawyers how to grow their law business to levels they never have imagined. And trust me, this is not hype, as we share mutual clients, and I've seen how their revenues have skyrocketed. Also, leaders are readers. And the first time I heard that cliche, I always say this, but it's the truth. I thought, come on now, that's lame. As soon as I got done with college, I'd only read sports magazines, things that really interest me. But honest to God, when I really applied that and figured out that if you can read 30 or 40 pages a day, which at most is 30 to 60 minutes, discipline yourself to make that time. When you study the super successful in the world, you will see that they commit themselves to reading at least an hour a day, and therefore you can read a book a week, which I actually do. So commit yourself to that, and you'll see your income soar. I'll be right back with my guest, Richard James, who's again is the president of Automated Business Results, who you have to see. Yet first, let's go to this week's book review of How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban. Michael Carroll here. Take a moment to think about how you found your current insurance broker. Was it on the recommendation of a colleague or the bar? Or is it a friend or someone who belongs to the same country club, church, or temple? Or did you find them on the internet? All very normal and fine until it isn't. And when it isn't, you'll be out of business. See ya, goodbye. From defense limit issues to deductible issues to no protection for personal autos being used on firm business to data breach risks that are by far the biggest risk any professional office faces. This is a difference between not having to worry about your insurance versus hoping it is all good until again it isn't, and then you become another sad tale. Let the nationally awarded and recognized experts, an insuring lawyer, share how easy it is to get an analysis where all the comparisons will be done for you and all fatal gaps that could ruin you are plugged so you are no longer naked. The title of today's book that I'll be reviewing is How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban. Yes, the Mark Cuban of Shark Tank and the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You can pick this up on Amazon for roughly $10, and I promise you it's truly one hell of a read. You'll really enjoy it, and you'll be able to pick some things out of here that'll help grow your revenues. See, Mark Cuban in this book shares his wealth of experience and business savvy, and he uses the greatest material from his popular blog called Maverick, like the Dallas Mavericks. He's collected and updated his postings and condensed them and put them in this book. Again, How to Win at the Sport of Business. He'll even tell his own rags to riches story of how he went from selling powdered milk and sleeping on his buddies' couches to how he became to own his own company, and frankly is now a multi-billion-dollar success story. Came from humble beginnings, not destitute or anything, but I mean really an impressive read. And I was actually able to pick 7 things out of his book that I've applied to my own business, and you can to your law firm, that are going to make a huge difference to your revenues and how you operate and how you view the world. Cuban, who's obviously unconventional, is a great word to describe him. He shares his effective ideas on how to build a successful business, offering entrepreneurs like you and I, right here, you watching it, at any stage of your career, as a huge edge over your competitors. Get it on Amazon again for $10, How to Win at the Sport of Business, and I'll be right back with my superstar guest today, Richard James.
Get a free copy of Michael Carroll's best-selling book, The Naked Lawyer, mailed to you today to discover how to avoid the 7 deadly sins on your lawyer's professional liability, office business insurance, including data breach, and workers' comp insurance, plus how to correct them while saving huge premium dollars too. Simply call 24/7 to hear a recording at 866-843-0101. or by visiting www.insuringlawyerbook.com.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And as promised today, I have a superstar guest. I've got Richard James, who's going to focus on the 3 keys to help you build a law firm that supports your lifestyle rather than undermining it. And welcome to the show, Richard.
Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate being here. I mean, our passion is to work with entrepreneurial-minded attorneys that want to build the systems to build that law firm you were talking about, that law firm of their dreams, the one that supports their lifestyle rather than undermines their lifestyle. And we know it's not an easy thing to do, but there is a simple process. And today I hope to share with you 3 important keys to give them a step along that way.
Terrific. Well, as I've watched you absolutely work with lawyers on a national basis, and I've seen the changes take place, and I've heard it in their voice, and I see the results. So you and I are going to have an absolute superstar home run of an interview today. So let's start with, you're not an attorney like I am. Well, neither you nor I are lawyers. I get asked all the time, you're a lawyer, right, Mike, and this and that. And I'll take that as a compliment from other lawyers. But as you and I know, we're not lawyers. So if you could tell me, what's your story? What made you want to start focusing on lawyers as your chosen niche?
Well, I tell you, you're right. It is an honor to be considered an attorney. I guess because we dress like an attorney, oftentimes we're considered an attorney. I don't know. Maybe that's why.
Right. Oh, you're right.
Maybe it's, my grandfather used to say, as you get older, you get respect with the gray hair. Today I have more no hair than gray hair, but so I get a little bit more respect. But the fact of the matter is, I started working with attorneys because after all of my business entrepreneurship programs, I found that lawyers responded to the business principles we taught. And I was teaching attorneys from the stage in Vegas, and one guy saw me speak and said, "Hey, does this stuff really work?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it really works." And he said, "Well, how about you prove it?" I said, "Well, what do you have in mind?" He said, "Well, I'm starting a brand new law firm." And he said, "If you're up to it, you can come try all your crazy ideas as long as you protect my license. And if it works, you get to tell your story. And if it doesn't work, well, you get to fail miserably in a public forum." And I said, okay, I'll take that challenge. It was the right place and right time for my family and myself. We were just free of one business and stepping into another. And that was almost a decade ago. And during that time, we joined together, kneecap to kneecap, literally sharing a room together, and started with $0 in gross sales. All we had is a couple of bucks to get started with marketing, and he was willing to work for free for a period of time. And within 6 months, he was able to get his first paycheck. And within a couple of years, we built that firm to $3.5 million in gross sales in just 2.5 years. And that launched into people saying, hey, if you did that for him, could you do that for me? And what's transpired now is we went from me consulting one-on-one and teaching attorneys, via manual labor and getting the most out of it, to now really identifying the path that we can create a place where the attorneys can come and they can not only get the leadership that they're looking for, but they can get together with their peer groups of other like-minded attorneys that they can relate to, and then we can give them regular doses of activity so they can get real meaningful change in their business. And the stories, Michael, I got to tell you, we just came off an event this last week, and we spent an hour. I gave out T-shirts. I'm a big Art Williams fan from back in the day, and Art Williams always gave away T-shirts. And the T-shirt that he gave used to be "You're a stud," and mine says "Action kills fear," because I believe that success loves speed. And so anybody that had a good success story, I gave them a T-shirt that says "Action kills fear." It took me an hour to give away T-shirts because there were so many success stories. We have them all recorded. We're excited to share them, but that's what warms my heart. That's why I get up in the morning. So we love doing this.
That is an excellent story and an excellent reason why, as they say, what have you. Now, as I open the show with you, we're going to talk about the 3 keys to help you build a law firm that supports your lifestyle. So if you would, you said you'd reveal those 3 keys. Can you tell us the first one, please, Richard?
Yeah, before I go there, I think I need to lay some groundwork. So first of all, the 3 keys are a subset of something that I call systems. I believe that systems should run your law firm and people should run your systems. Now, there's 3 necessary components to all systems, and so if it's okay with you, I'm going to share those with you. Is that okay?
Please do, because I'm a workflow systems guy myself, so you are in my world. I love this.
Good. So for us in systems, maybe specifically to service professionals like you and myself and attorneys, we found there are 3 necessary ingredients. And the first necessary ingredient is this idea of harvesting. And so if we just break that system into maybe a marketing system or a lead conversion system, we have to be able to harvest every single piece of information about every single lead every single time.
Correct.
We can't get the data and report on the data if we don't have the data, right?
Right.
So the first thing we teach our attorneys is how to build a system to harvest the information that they need to harvest. And that's vital, because when we had, when I built that firm in Phoenix, I had 175 ways to make the phone ring, if you can believe that.
Wow. Excellent.
And so, yeah, but we needed to know which ones worked
Correct.
and which ones didn't, right?
Yes.
The only way we were able to know that is by harvesting all of the data about every lead and every lead source every single time. So the first thing is about creating that system. The second is about inspecting via report. My grandfather always taught me you inspect what you expect, right?
Right.
And a good friend of mine years ago told me that, you know, in every business, there's what the business owner wants to be happening, there's what the business owner thinks is happening, and then there's what's actually happening,
right?
You've heard this, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so you're from the same school and the same teachers as I'm from, so you and I recognize this. But when I say this to attorneys, they're like a deer in the headlights sometimes. They've never heard these things before. And so it's so exciting to share it with them, because it really is revealing for them to go, oh, that makes sense. And so we're playing in a world with attorneys where we really are doing some grassroots approaches to this, but it's new information to them, surprisingly to me. But we found that it is, and it hasn't changed through the years. So teaching them to run reports to inspect their information. So when we had those 175 lead sources, if we weren't running reports, I couldn't tell you which one outproduced the other. But today, I could tell you, because we ran the reports, what the top 3 lead sources of all 175 were. And because we knew that, we were able to grow so quickly because the competition was using a shotgun while we were using a laser beam. That makes all the difference in the world. Now, the final one is automation. Final step to building a system is automation. It's a deep conversation, one we're not going to spend a lot of time on today.
Right.
But just suffice it to say that the idea is, once you find out how to harvest the information, and once you figure out how to run reports, what you really want to do is build a machine that you can set it and forget it. And now you can be the person that interprets the reports and diagnoses the situation, but you don't have to be the person building it all the time. And so building a system that's automated is the ultimate nirvana level of leverage and being able to obtain what we're really after, which is our freedom, right?
Absolutely. Now, you've touched on so many items that are...
We could talk for a day, right?
I mean, just gets me so excited, because we're all business owners at the end of the day. What you do, Richard, what I do, what a lawyer does, you know, anyone in business, excuse me, we have the same basic tenets, if you will, of how to run a business. And I always liken it to, could you imagine whatever sport you like, if you're into sports, going and watching the Patriots play, you know, the Broncos, and they run up and down the field for 60 minutes, and then at the end of the game, they shake hands, and there's no score. I mean, wouldn't that be, that's called a controlled scrimmage, that maybe you want to get pictures, but that would not sell well. It wouldn't be the NFL as we know it. Or if you're not into sports, which I think everyone is, but you'd be surprised how many aren't, it's like taking money and investing it in the stock market, either doing it yourself online and or using a broker, an investment advisor, as they call themselves today, and just putting it in there and never watching it ever again. Yeah. And if that's too, you know, high brow or high level for you, then let's get into just putting money in your savings account or your checking account and just arbitrarily writing checks and not balancing your checkbook. I mean, we as business owners, and I've done it the wrong way. I've paid tuition, if you will.
I have the T-shirt.
Absolutely. And you think typical marketing goes for a lot of business owners who don't have someone like you, Richard, to lead them. It's very simply, what Dan Kennedy, who's a man you and I know well and respect, and we believe a lot of his teachings, calls the inbred level of marketing. It just gets dumber and dumber and dumber with every generation. But some of it may work at a small level, but they just put it out there, and they might get a call or two, and they may get a conversion or two, and they think, this is great, I got some business out of it. Well, what was your return on investment? Was it what, you know, did you end up spending more, this and that? Are you trying to go in it with a loss leader? And at the end of the day, if you haven't failed at something, you haven't tried hard enough. But the beauty of what you're talking about, Richard, is you've done all this for them. they don't have to do what you and I did way back in the day till we were just frustrated and beat up and working 100 hours a week. And we both ran into someone who taught us what we teach now. Which we not only use in our business, but you made a career out of coaching people, which I've seen the results on that. So I love that. And lawyers watching today, this is not Jedi mind tricks. This is not something that is so high level that your head will explode and you'll think it'll never work. And the other beautiful thing about Richard, what you do, which I love, this isn't a once a year or twice a year boot camp or a mastermind where you get a bunch of information, you leave fired up, and you're really excited, and then you get back to your office and you put it in a corner, and then it's business back as usual, and you had all these great intentions, and you get stuck working in your business versus on it. But Richard, how you continue to mentor them and show them exactly that if you follow these things with your monthly calls and your coaching, how well it works out. But I'll tell you, I mean, this is a subject where I could take over the show because I love it. But let me get into this here, so I don't. Excuse me for taking over.
No, that was good. But if you don't mind, I'm going to just address a couple of things that you had said. So first of all, I want you to know it's important for everybody to know a couple of things. I had a screwed up business once too. Okay, and so I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. I've been doing this literally since I was 18 years old. I'm 46. I've been doing it a long time. Made a lot of mistakes along the way. And really, I think that, I've got my MBA from the School of Hard Knocks, right? I mean, I really have invested many millions of dollars educating myself both figuratively and literally in losses throughout the years. And so we figured it out. I mean, my grandfather, when I first started in business, taught me that, the way you measured your financial success is you have two cigar boxes. One cigar box has your invoices, right? The other cigar box has your cash.
Right.
And when this cigar box is empty, whatever's left in this cigar box, that's yours to keep. That's kind of how I was raised, right?
Yes,
and so,
yes.
well, that's
school.
not bad necessarily. He never went broke. He would spend an hour looking for a quarter. But the point was I couldn't leverage that relationship, and I couldn't ultimately gain my freedom. And Grandpa didn't want to gain his freedom. His idea of retirement was going down to George's restaurant for a cup of coffee twice a day instead of once a day, right? He literally died with his boots on, which was good for Grandpa, but not good for me. It's not what I wanted. I wanted something more. I wanted to be able to enjoy my family. I wanted to be able to enjoy my God. I wanted to be able to enjoy time to myself. I like playing golf. The other thing I'll say is this idea of this, the fact that there are people that as they go through the program, they sometimes enter in these programs and as you said, they buy it and they put it on the shelf and it gets dusty and they never open it, or they go to an event and get all excited and come back and then nothing major happens, or they'll do one or two things and they slip right back into it. We recognized long time ago that doesn't work. A guy by the name of Alan Deutschman wrote a book called Change or Die. So I highly recommend it. It's a good book for anybody to grab a copy of. If you want a copy, I'll happily give it to you. But it's Change or Die. And the idea is, how do you get real meaningful change in your life if your life depended on it? And he studied people with open heart surgery and people who are criminals, and why do they keep going back to the same old habits, putting them in peril situations consistently? And then he found people who solved that conundrum. And like you said, we used that guideline to create this program where attorneys can really get real meaningful, lasting change in their practice by, again, having leadership, being in a group of peers on a regular basis, and then more importantly, taking daily, weekly, and quarterly activity with what we call these small group of peers led by our team to show them exactly what it is they need to do. So this is a lasting thing, not a temporary flash in the pan.
Love it. You're absolutely right. And I love what you said. The old school way served that generation very well. Thank you. But the world has changed. You talked about automation and what have you. Change or die. By the way, I love reading books. On my show, I do a book review.
Nice.
I believe leaders are readers. I try to read a book a week, and last year I read 47 books. So that's a book I will absolutely read. And because I love reading it. Knowledge is power. That's how that's something. And I remember as being a grammar school, high school, college. My job, I wanted to stay eligible because I was going to make the NBA and be the next Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, right? Well, that's 6'5"
I was the opposite
guys who
of
don't
that,
jump the greatest and aren't the quickest. There's not a lot of room in the NBA for us. But anyway, luckily I paid attention enough that I did learn that reading was good. It's like putting your brain on steroids. But Well, that's good. Well, what are the three keys? What do you say the three keys are in a system? Why don't you share with me what they are, please?
Yeah, so let's talk about the three things that attorneys need to get right. Okay, so within three systems. So if we look at the systems you need to build for yourself, there are three of them we want them to focus on. They're the three most important. They're the things that I focused on first when I built that firm in Phoenix. People say to me all the time, okay, gun to your head, if you could only do three things, they usually say if you could only do one thing, and there is no one thing, and there is no secret sauce, by the way, but if I'm going to boil it down to three things, these are the three things I would do and did for this business first. And so here they are. The first one is a marketing system. Well, does that make sense? Probably. People talk about it all the time. But what does that mean? Well, remember, we're harvesting the data, we're inspecting and reporting on the situation, and then we're trying to automate it. And so if I back into it, we use automation, we use software. We're a fan of Infusionsoft. We use Infusionsoft for our technology. We build it for our clients. And so that's a software that we use to automate it. I won't dive deep on that because it's a big conversation. But back to the harvesting and the reporting, let's talk about a marketing system. So first of all, like any good marketing system, any book you've ever read on marketing, they tell you have to figure out who your ideal target market is, and we're going to assume you have that. But then one of the reasons why you and I got together is because you sent me cold this what I call a shock and awe package, right? I opened up the box, pop open a balloon. There's your smiling face and a bag of popcorn with an envelope in the bottom of it with my name in handwritten font with a great sales letter on the inside and most important to me, a copy of your book.
Right.
And so the cornerstone of all the marketing we tell our clients to build is through this idea of authorship, celebrity, and expert. So inside of the marketing system, because marketing is a big topic, but inside of the marketing system, we're going to develop a system to create the attorney as an author, celebrity, and expert. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I'm living proof of that because at the end of the day, am I terribly smarter than the next insurance broker in the industry? In the lawyer space, maybe, because I'm that laser, I love the word laser focus, but from a pure IQ, intelligent quotient, no, not really. But it's just a matter of having a marketing system where, again, the majority, 99.9% of my peer group, just a shotgun approach. Let me go out there and join Kiwanis and Rotary, and nothing wrong with those organizations, and that builds decent business. But you're right, that's not a system. That's a civic way and a way to, you're going to pick up business that way and on an airplane and maybe at a kid's game, but that you can't run a successful business doing only that. That's just something if you're an
I have all the badges, by the way.
So,
I have all the badges. I was president of Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club. I was making pierogies with the little old Polish ladies down at the Polish National Catholic Church, right? I was there. I've been there. I've done that. I did it the old-fashioned way,
Right.
So, and that's great, but it's not, as you said, it's not a system, right? It's just manual, good old-fashioned shoe leather labor. And there's a place for that.
Correct.
I'm a big fan. If you've got nothing else, man, get out there and get out there, okay?
Right, correct.
Put 3 pennies in one pocket and try to talk to 3 people. And every time you talk to a person, move the penny over to the other pocket. And this is how you know you talk to 3 people a day. Man, you do that every single day, you'll grow your business manually, right?
Right.
And I was raised that way, so go ahead and do it. But once we get we're having this conversation with some attorneys who are probably past that level.
Right.
And also because they have such price elasticity in what they do. In other words, they can charge a reasonable amount for their services and still be reasonable for their clients, but give great value at the same time and have a profit margin that makes sense. That really attorneys have the ability to build these systems inside of their practice long sooner than many other business owners do because they're working on skinnier margins.
Correct. Right.
And so this marketing system, so if we break it into this authorship, celebrity, and expert, when we built that firm in Phoenix, before I left, I had given away 26,000 copies of that book away in Phoenix, okay?
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. And so would you like to know the number one way we did it?
Tell me, please. Yes, I would.
So now not every attorney is going to want to do this. I get that. But I want to caution everybody to not go into this going, well, my business is different, because I make everybody raise their hand in our world that says my business is no different from yours.
Greatest excuse in the book.
Yeah, of course. But let's assume that they're going to wave a magic wand and get rid of all disbelief just for the purposes of this telephone call, or pardon me, this TV conversation we have right now. And so when they do that, I just want them to imagine for a second that they can do this in their practice too. So here's what we did. We identified we were going to give away a copy of the book. And so we went on television and we started giving away a copy of the book. We were using, remember, 175 lead sources, testing them and trying them. And then we used TV. And I think it'd be great if I told the story that we were a success instantly. But the fact of the matter is that we were horrible at it. I stunk at it. I didn't know what I was doing. And what I tried to do was do what everybody told me to do. I listened to everybody in the industry. And then finally I go, man, it's just not working. And I was about a month away. I had 1 month's budget left before I had to cancel the program and not do it anymore. And I said to them, I said, can we do an interview? And they said, oh yeah, that's something called segments. And I go, I'd really love to do an interview about the book. And they go, oh, that won't work. Nobody wants a book. And I go, well, let's just try it.
Yeah. And
so we did it. And in the beginning, they weren't right, but they weren't wrong either. It wasn't amazing. We were spending about $800 a spot, and we were getting about 8 leads, so about $100 a spot. Not horrible. I could monetize it, but kind of expensive. We made one change, Michael. We went from 8 leads to 80 leads. Would you like to know what one change we made?
Please, tell me.
Okay, so I was at a Kennedy conference, and I heard Kennedy say, an ad's not an ad, or better said, a direct response ad's not a direct response ad unless it has a deadline. And I go,
you're right.
We missed it. And so all we did was we were on the show, and the attorney was on there, and all he did is turn and go, my business manager, Rich, says we have how many? 27. We have 27 copies of the book available. Well, we got off. It was a live show. We were going back to the office, and the office was blowing up my phone going, what did you do? You just shut down the phone system.
Yes.
I go, what? And so we got home, and we pulled the report because I track everything, and we had 80 leads in like 11 minutes come into the firm.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it was actually like 240 phone calls because everybody was calling back to try to get through, right?
Right.
And so it was just that one change. That's a writer downer. Any advertising you do, add a deadline to it, and it just makes everything else work better. It will increase your overall, what we call, conversion. And so building a system for that, here's the thing. If we didn't have a marketing system, if I didn't have tracking lines set up and a system to be able to measure everything and to be able to identify exactly what our message was and measure it against all of other results, we would have never known, first of all, to even try it or test it because I had nothing to compare it against. And secondly, even if I did test it, I wouldn't have necessarily known the scope of the results. But because we had a system in place, a marketing system where we developed authorship, celebrity, and expert, we went on to make television and radio our number 1 and number 2 lead sources and gave, as I said, 26,000 copies of the book away at a cost per lead of somewhere between $30 and $50 with an ROI well over 7 or 8 times multiple. It worked like a charm. So if they learn nothing else, take that one and run with it.
That's outstanding. And Richard, a key point, what a lot of folks would have done, because you and I have done this prior, is you get to that point where you think, well, this just doesn't work because you're not tracking it. Or you continue to do it and lose money, one of the two, but you knew that this just isn't, it's close, it's good enough. Yeah, this isn't worth it, I'm just going to quit. And when you went back and you're the deadline, and I'll add in, it's the old, a lot of people lawyers have great services. They are technically proficient. They're outstanding at what they do.
Sure.
But when they market it, it's the old, the 4, and then that key 5th step. It's here's who I am, here's what I do, here's why you need me. And so people are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But then here's what they leave out. Here's what you need to do to get me. They forget the call to action. And it's a limited time offer, whether there's supplies and or a deadline. And those are the 5 variables, whether that be in direct mail, television, radio, email, whatever it is. Don't ever deviate from that, folks. I promise you, as Richard will teach you and mentor and coach you along the way, that is how you will become a marketing machine, and you'll be able to tweak and test. this area of practice and this geographic and what have you. That's when all the fun begins. And it really is fun because it's a matter of how successful you're going to be versus am I going to be successful? It's a matter of how, and you keep fine-tuning it, But what a great story. Awesome story.
Once you
Thanks
build
for sharing
that
that,
machine,
Richard.
oh, you're welcome, Michael. Once you build that machine, it's a magic can start to happen. Right now you can convert the leads better. Now you can serve the clients better. Now you can manage your cash flow. The machine of leads is coming in. Once you build that lead generation machine or marketing machine, boy, oh boy, does it make a difference in your practice. A problem is attorneys, they were lied to, right?
Correct.
Kind of like mom lied to me when I was a kid. I love mom, but the fact of the matter is she lied to me. She told you, see if you can fill in the blank. She told me when I didn't want to eat and I had a plate of meat and potatoes and carrots, she said, well, you got to eat your carrots because it's good for your...
It's good for your health. It's good for your health. It'll make you grow big and strong. That's what I was told.
And mom would tell me it's good for my eyesight, right?
Oh, of course, the eyesight.
Carrots are good for your eyes. It'd make you see better.
Right.
And you know what? I believed that my whole life, and I just found out recently that's just not true. While carrots have great vitamin A and beta carotene, and they're good for overall eye health, they cannot on their own fix your vision.
Right.
I could eat carrots until I turn orange. My vision is still going to be my vision. They can't fix it. And attorneys were told this lie, that if they're just good enough, if they just get the good education, go work for a good firm, become really good at what they do, that's enough, that the clients will come. And that is a lie today. Yep. And they suffer for it. We talk to hundreds of attorneys every month that are really good at what they do. They went to a great school, worked at a fantastic firm, and now they're out on their own and they're dead broke, miserable, climbing in the corner ready to suck their thumb because they don't know where to turn next, because they believe this lie. We need a marketing machine. It's part of the overall systems you need. Make sense?
I mean, how true. Again, if you lawyers watching this today, if you don't have that, don't feel embarrassed. It's absolutely more common than uncommon.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like a game of keep away. The lawyers who know that, why would they share that with you? Unless it's your cousin Jimmy or Gina, they're going to keep that away from you. So someone like Richard, who's proven, is going to share with you how you can create a system to fit your practice that is going to print money for you. And it runs on autopilot, where you don't have to be this guy working 80, 90 hours a week. And again, the 4-hour work week, whoever wrote that, come on now, I've never heard of something so silly.
Hey, it's good if you can get it.
Anyway.
It's a good gig if you can get it, okay? But
right, exactly.
I don't, listen, I believe there's nothing wrong with working an hour a month and making $1 million a month. There's nothing wrong with that.
Of course.
And we shouldn't be cajoled or guilted into thinking there is. And if you can build a practice with systems that can allow you to do that, then great. I happen to love what I do, and so I love work. And so most people I meet that are in our program, attorneys, they like what they do. They just want some freedom to be able to have some balance in their lives, right? Correct. And by the way, I was the guy in the corner sucking his thumb. So I mean, I can relate, sitting in the fetal position, wondering when the phone was going to ring. I mean, listen, my grandpa. So what you don't know about, but I didn't reveal, I'll reveal it now, is I owned funeral homes for many years. Okay, so I loved the funeral business. I love sales and marketing more, and so I couldn't figure out how to hang a sign on the side of the building that said buy one get one free and get any real results. Okay, so I got out of the funeral business, but while I was in it, I'd sit there when the phone wouldn't ring and just kind of wait. Now, what do you do, right? The phone's not ringing. What do you do in the funeral business? You just sit there and look at the phone and test it and make sure it's working. Right. Grandma used to joke. My grandmother was the third generation. She used to point at the filing cabinet of all the people who made pre-arrangements. She goes, I've got a sniper rifle upstairs just in case. I'm like, Grandma, no, we don't need it. No, I'm just kidding. She didn't really say that. But you felt like it, right? There's nothing you could do to motivate people to want your services. And so trust me, I was that guy that was frustrated and didn't know what to do and didn't know where to turn. Incidentally, today we figured out how we can market the funeral business, and all the things we teach here actually work for it. The highest compliment I've been paid to this point in my career is my first mentor, my uncle, came back to me some 20 years later and said, hey, you've officially learned more about this marketing thing than I am. I'm opening a new firm. Would you mind pouring it on and see if it'll work in the funeral home? And son of a gun, my original mentor came back and hired me for advice. Unbelievable.
Isn't that something?
Oh, it was
great
highlight.
Works in anything. because a lawyer could say the same thing. Well, I got to wait for someone to go through a hardship or a tragedy or or a dispute or a beef, or when they're going to buy a house or someone to immigrate into the country. Whatever your chosen area of practice is, I have to wait for an event to happen. No, that again, that's reactive marketing. That's just sitting around waiting for things to happen. And in life, if you do that, you're going to finish second at best and usually toward the bottom. So to be out there and to have a system that is going to constantly, you're going to have a high level of production, and you'll be able to take it higher and higher and higher over time. So that's outstanding. Well, then now you talk about the second key, converting the unconverted lead, if you will. You know, leads come in, and I, like you, as you shared earlier, Richard, I've written a book. Our closing percentage when I write a book is 87%. I cannot get enough books in a lawyer's hand. Wow. As you shared, it elevates me to expert status. My wheelhouse is the 1 to 10 lawyer-sized firm. The insurance industry, you know, turns their back on them. They think, what a waste of time, what a little schmo or whatever, schmuck or whatever. Yeah, hey, I love 1 to 10 lawyer-sized firms. Do we have clients that have more than 10 lawyers? Yes, we do. We love them too. But the 1 to 10 is where I really see it being underserved, and those are small business owners just like I am that work their tails off, and there's a great, you know, they need my professional expertise. But by writing that book, they've never had anyone go to that level. So right away, they're like, this guy is not some insurance clown who's trying to save me a few bucks or, you know, or trying to hammer me or, you know, write it and never see him again. If you were a client, Richard, I'd call you Rick and then Rob and then Robert and Richie and never get your name right, you know, and that's the big, monster in the room that know, and people, they feel what they know, and that's it. And that's the way it's always been. But I can't get enough books in there. But then, so that's where I have an automated system and all of this. But why don't you share getting a lead to come in if you don't have a system to keep them engaged? Okay, so they reach out, they get your book. They may not have a need per se at that moment. So now you've got this book. They've got your book. You know, they get your book, and what? You turn away. That to me that's a very key point, to have a system to keep them engaged. And I'll share what mine is in a few, but why don't you share exactly, because that's a very, very key point that a lot of people have the gumption to do step one, key number one, then it all falls apart. It has to all fit together, if you will. Why don't you share how that unconverted lead becomes a converted lead over time?
Yeah, Michael, so, you know, like you said, well, I said originally, there is no secret sauce and there's no one single step. So once we build that marketing machine, okay, great. The phone's ringing, you know, and so now what do we do? And so we teach lawyers this system of unconverted leads, and we put it into our proprietary language because it really, we after years of working with attorneys and doing it ourselves, we figured out, okay, there is literally a step-by-step process to this, and we call it the perfect client life cycle. Basically, what we do is we measure how many leads come into your practice, and then we look at what's the next stage. Well, the next stage in most law firms is they're going to set an appointment. Some law firms skip that stage, but most of the time they're going to set a consultation, initial consultation, or potential new client consultation. And then the next stage is they have to show up to that appointment. You'd be surprised these day and age how many people don't show up to the appointment with their lawyer. That would have never happened 50 years ago, but today it does happen. People don't show up to their appointment.
Correct.
And then after they show up, we have to convince them that we're the right firm for them. So we believe, I would hope every lawyer believes this, that they're the best choice if somebody has a legal need in their community for the legal service they provide, that they're the best choice. Well, now we have to convince them through what I call the sales process, how to hire the firm. And so that's the next stage, getting them to hire the firm. And that's not it, because now with a lot of firms these days, they've got to figure out how to get paid. If they're not a contingency-based firm like PI or workers' comp, right. If they're a bankruptcy firm or estate planning firm or a criminal firm or an immigration firm, you've got to get paid. And so you have to have a system to get paid, and you have to measure how many people are paying you as compared to the number of people are hiring you. We call that the realization rate. And then you, after it's all said and done, and you've served them, you've gotten paid. Well, now we want referrals. So now we want to get them to like you so much that they give you referrals. So the perfect client life cycle is how many leads do we have? How many appointments did we set? How many of those appointments showed up? Of the people that showed up, how many hired us? Of the people that hired us, how many people paid their bill? And of the people that paid their bill and hired us, how many of them referred their friends or relatives to you? And if everything is working on all systems go, and we build a good quality system, now we can identify what is working or what isn't working just in case we need a tweak. So many times attorneys come to me and say, oh, I'm not making any money. And I go, well, what do you think the problem is? Well, I just need more leads. Okay, well, let's take a look at your perfect client lifecycle. And we harvest the data the best we can. Sometimes they don't have it, so we tell them to take a swag, right?
Right.
And so which is a guess for those of you who don't know what it is. And so we have them take a guess, and then they put it in there. And then all of a sudden we realize they don't have a problem with more leads. They're not converting the leads they've already got. Giving them more leads would be a sin.
Yes.
You don't need to give them more leads. We need to show them how to convert more of their existing leads. Maybe they're not setting enough appointments, or maybe their people aren't showing up to their appointment. And we really look at it by a conversion rate, right? So we just take a percentage. How many people set as compared to how many leads you get? How many people show as compared to how many you set? And we just look at the rate, and based on where they are geographically, their practice area, different things about their business, we identify what the right rate should be for them and if it's on target or off target. I'll give you a little story to illustrate this. So I had a firm that was up in Washington, and they listened to me. They wanted to run television and use the authorship celebrity and expert. By the way, not everybody runs television. This firm just decided to do it. So they ran television, and they draw the leads in, and our kind of goal is to get a 30, give or take a 30% rate of conversion from the people who request a book to the people who are going to set an appointment.
Nice.
Now that other 70% will set an appointment somewhere down the line, but they just weren't ready right now. So we want 30%. Well, he was getting 15% instead of 30%. And so we made one change, and we went from 15% to 32%. Would you like to know what that one change was?
What was that?
Okay, so he too was busy. The ad worked. It rang the phone off the hook, but we found out that he didn't have enough people answering the phone, and he had average hold times of over 2 minutes.
Ooh.
And what was happening is people were falling off. All we did was we added in an answering service that could answer the phone live if his reps couldn't get to it, and we went immediately, just like that, from going from 15% conversion to over 30% conversion. Now, the key is, the only reason we were able to do that is because we had a lead conversion machine in place that measured the perfect client lifecycle. If he just said, if we didn't have that in place, he would have just said, TV's not working, right? That's what he would have said. Oh, it's not working. His staff wouldn't have told him that they were getting a lot of calls and they weren't setting appointments and they couldn't get the people and leaving them on hold. They would never admit to that. If he didn't have a system in place for this, he would have never known. He would have given up on television. The fact of the matter is, he was getting near a 6 times ROI from these ads, but he just wasn't converting them right through the funnel. Once we converted them right, everything else worked. Does that make sense?
It completely does. Outstanding. I love the examples. They're clear, they're concise, and they totally make sense. I love it, Richard.
Good. And so now we'll break into, if you don't mind, just with the sake of time, I'll break into the third key for you because it leads right into it.
Yes.
This third key is about price elasticity or getting paid. Inside the perfect client lifecycle is this idea of getting paid. It's a stage. But boy, it's a key unto itself because so many law firms, maybe they figured out how to make the phone ring through referrals or advertising on the internet. Maybe they even figured out how to get them in the building. But then they say to me, they don't have any money. And then I ask them, what are they charging for their services? Or how are they getting paid? So let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. So the firm in Phoenix, we had one of our focuses was bankruptcy. And in every corner of Phoenix, there was a billboard that advertised $6.95, $9.95, $12.95. Well, I knew from doing this long enough that at those price points in bankruptcy, you're probably going to lose money on a Chapter 7. Correct. So we priced our bankruptcy at $2,395, and we averaged 72% close rate in the initial consultations. Now, why in the world were people willing to hire us at $2,395 when there was a dozen guys on billboards advertising $9.95? The answer is because we had a system in place. And the start of that system was the 8 inches between our ears.
That's
we
right.
were willing to make a decision that price was not the issue.
Correct.
The issue was having a proper system of following up and converting and a sales process. And so we were able to make that price differential. The second thing I'll tell you about bankruptcy firms, why not? A lot of bankruptcy firms let clients kind of pay what they can when they can. They won't file their case until they're paid in full in most times, but they don't really control the process. Now, Michael, let me ask you, in a business, how important on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very important at all, 10 being wildly important, how important is cash flow to your business?
10, 12,
Yeah,
15.
It's like oxygen, right? It ranks right up there, right?
Yes,
It's kind of important, right? So here's my question. If you're dealing with a bankruptcy client, and it's not just bankruptcy client, it's all clients who are in trouble with something focusing their mind somewhere else behind, except their money. So you're letting somebody who's not really focused on their money or the importance of managing it, why would you let them manage the cash flow of your business if your cash flow of your business is so high? Don't let them pay what they can when they can. Put a system in place for them to commit to a payment plan and then measure against that system, determine whether they're on plan or off plan. Just that simple thought process literally changes attorneys. We just had an attorney join the program about 3 weeks ago. Came into the program, and I would actually consider him successful. He's got a very thriving practice. He only works about 30 hours a week. He said to me, I kind of have a good life already, but I want to keep it. So I want to join your program because I want to figure out how to stay where I'm at, right?
Good.
And I said, okay, great. So come on in. And he told a story. After he heard me tell these things about pricing systems, he decided to raise his price 50% overnight. And
Outstanding.
he posted it to the queue, to our little proprietary board where all the members talk to each other. And all the other members that had raised their prices were pounding on him. Yeah, you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do it. Go for it. Go for it. And so he took the plunge and he raised his prices 50%. He had a 31% close rate. He went down to a 29% close rate. So he lost 2 points on his close rate in the period of time where he raised his prices. But he increased his prices
50%.
50%.
Yes.
The amount of money this equals to the bottom line is ridiculous.
Massive.
Absolutely ridiculous. And he goes, I never would have thought about it in a million years because I always thought price was the issue because everybody else was advertising price. He's a criminal lawyer, so all the other criminal lawyers who are advertising for people who got DUIs are advertising lowest price, lowest price, lowest price. He thought he had to be somewhat competitive. He found out he didn't need to be competitive. He just needed a better system in place. Right. It's this stuff, Michael, these 3 things, this idea of building a marketing system so you can have a lead generation machine, building an unconverted lead machine so we can understand the perfect client lifecycle, and getting your pricing and your collections process right. If law firms fix those 3 things, they gain all sorts of freedom. Now, I'm not telling them it's going to be easy because it's not, but it is simple and it is step by step. And oftentimes it just takes the right encouragement from the right leaders and the right peer group to convince them to take that step. I had a client that was in the group last week and said to me, you know what, Rich, I was a day away from quitting. His wife came up and gave me a hug. She goes, he was ready to quit before he came here. Matter of fact, he was not going to only quit your program. He was quitting the practice of law altogether. He was miserable. He came here and he had heard you say raise price, raise price, raise price, and he didn't hear it. He didn't want to hear it. And he said he talked to so-and-so across the hall, and they're a mom and pop business, and they're in a small town like him, and he heard how they raised their prices. He said, we're going home right away to raise prices. I'm happily reporting that they've raised prices, no change in conversion, and he's no longer thinking about quitting his practice again. This is the kind of stuff that happens when you get together with your peers who have already done it and get the confidence that if somebody else did it, you can do it too.
That's excellent. And when you talk about having systems, that permeates to every area of your business, whereas and that's how you can charge higher prices because you run your business as a business versus a charity. And you described when bankruptcy lawyers, attorneys, firms that do that, you're running a charity. The question comes down to, you're running a business. Do you have a business to have employees that are your friends, that you want them to like you? You want to go. You want to socialize with them. If you're in that world, that's from the employee perspective, something completely separate. But it's the same idea with clients. If you're getting clients that you want people to like you and say, "But you're a good guy," I'm not saying they don't like you, but like and respect are different ideas. Let's hope they like me. I really try hard to be a likable person. But at the end of the day, they will respect me. And I don't say that as a threat or a leverage play.
No.
It's because I have a system in my business that there are no failures. And if something goes wrong, it can be quantified and pinpointed immediately without saying, let me look into that. Exactly. What have you. You can see exactly where it broke down. So how true that is. And that's how you can earn the right to charge more than the lowball player. And he or she who lives by the price will die by the price. And that's no way to
It's just a race to the bottom, right? And by the way, Grandma taught me a long time ago, what other people think about me is none of my damn business.
Isn't that the truth?
We want to be like, secretly, we all want to be like, but at the end of the day, if I'm in business, look, I know business is there to provide jobs, business is there to provide you a way of life, but at the end of the day, business is there to be profitable.
Correct.
That's what a business is supposed to be, is profitable. And that's a whole nother study. By the way, you're right. You hit the nail on the head, Michael. There's not just 3 systems. We've identified 12 basic ones that we teach you, the core fundamentals, that when you come into the program, we give you these systems kind of one at a time. But that's kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Correct.
If anybody for us wants to find out more about what we do, do you mind if I let them know how they can get it?
Please, yeah. I love it.
So 2 things. One, I want you to know that we'll give you a copy of our book. We call it a shook. It's not a big book. It's a short book, right? It's just called The DNA of the Autonomous Attorney. It's the first book and the first steps to you understanding kind of the systems you need to build the practice of your dreams. Goes a little deeper on the conversation we talked about today. And then also, a lot of times with these 3 keys, we find that, they are unique to each firm in their own way. And so we actually give an hour of our time. We invest an hour with law firms, taking these 3 keys, identifying them, how they directly correlate to their law firm, peeling back the onion per se, and giving them advice how they could build these 3 key systems in their practice more successfully so they can walk away and do something tomorrow. And at the end of the call, if we've given value, then we'll start having the conversation about how we take the next step. As Grandma says, we need to date before we get married. And
That's right.
Best way to date for us is go ahead and get a free copy of our book. Just go to therichardjames.com. That's therichardjames.com/systems with an S book, systems book. therichardjames.com/systems book. If for whatever reason you drop off the face of the earth on the systems book, when you get to therichardjames.com, you'll be able to find your way to the book. Anyway, bottom line is go there, get a copy of the book, and we'll start the conversation with us to see if you're ready to take that next step. Again, if you're an entrepreneurial-minded attorney, if you're an attorney who sees their practice of law as a business, right, not necessarily a calling like the priesthood, then we're going to relate to each other. If you see it as a calling as a priesthood, nothing wrong with that. We're just probably not going to relate to each other. And so we just want to get that out in the open right now, because my language definitely talks directly to that entrepreneurial-minded attorney. But we would love to take that first step with you. It's our passion. And Michael, I hope that I've given you and your viewers today some insight as to the systems they could use to improve their practice.
Oh, Richard, yeah, you have absolutely crushed it today, no doubt about it. And your information for your book is at the bottom of the screen here. It's been down there since you started describing it. So everyone watching it here today, you can pause and definitely get a copy of the book. It's a game changer. And for everyone watching this today, again, I've seen Richard, I've studied Richard. I see the success results, and that can easily be you too. It's just a matter of taking the leap and saying to yourself, do I want what I have today, and can I improve on that? As you shared, Richard, there are lawyers that are already doing well. You don't need to be the guy who's, considering, throwing his hands up in disgust and going and working for a firm, okay? And there's nothing wrong with lawyers that work in big firms. But today, the audience today are obviously lawyers that have their own firm, that want to grow. And if you're doing well, you can do better. And Richard is a great resource to do that. Get a copy of his book. Get to know Richard. He's dynamic. He's really one of the more interesting and energetic and true blue. This is a guy who practices what he preaches. He does it himself. What he shares with you is he's employed in his own practice. And it's the same mentality that I have in my practice. So if 2, regular Joes, for lack of a better term, can be successful, you certainly can too. You with postgraduate degrees versus the school of hard knocks that Richard and I certainly got our PhDs or MBAs, as you shared with that.
Yeah.
But Richard, you have been an outstanding guest. I cannot wait to have you back to talk more about, other facets of your program. But today is just an incredible introduction. The lawyers watching today, I urge you and implore you to explore Richard, get a copy of his book, and begin the conversation with him. And that's it. And Richard, I cannot thank you again for being a guest on my show.
Michael, it's a real pleasure to work with another practitioner of implementing these systems. It's great that we're not just theorists. We're not teaching like a professor who doesn't know enough to get in out of the rain. We actually do this ourselves, and that means a lot to our clients. I think they can relate to you because you actually run your business. You understand your own insurance needs. I know our clients respect the fact that you're specialized in what it is you do and you talk their language. And I feel like when they hear that we're teaching them the things that we use in our own business, it makes a difference. We're not teaching it from a theory. So today was a real pleasure. Oftentimes I have these conversations and they'll lead right into the next conversation, and the guy or gal who's asking me the questions, they don't get it. But you get it. And it's a lot of fun to work with you. And I know we've had fun conversations before, and I look forward to having them for years to come.
Good. I cannot wait till our next time, and I'm sure I'll talk to you many, many times between then. Thanks again for being a guest on today's show, Richard. I'll look forward to our next conversation, and I'll be right back with my final thoughts for today's show. What another incredible show we had today with my great guest, Richard James of Automated Business Results, who's obviously the president and founder. To become a member of Automated Business Results, the contact information is right below me here at the website and their phone number. And I will share with you that we share many mutual clients. I, of course, protect them with their professional liability, the data breach, the office business insurance, and Richard is the one that takes them from being successful to super successful or struggling to doing super successful. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's not hype. It's not a one-time Jedi mind trick or magical tricks, wizards and magicians, as I like to call it. Richard's Automated Business Results is an ongoing coaching and mentoring program that will absolutely make your law firm that much more profitable and fun to run. Really be successful in the business of law. Highly, highly recommend that you explore this. And also I reviewed the book, How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is a billionaire. Most everyone knows who Mark Cuban is. He shares a lot of his thoughts what made him successful. I was able to pull 7 ideas out of there that have helped my business a ton. You'll be able to pull at least 3 out of there. And it's a very simple read, and you'll really enjoy it. Highly recommend it. Again, How to Win at the Sport of Business on Amazon for about $10. And I'll close with, I always like to say, listen up, okay? My goal in every show is to cover you up from being naked, whether it be on your professional liability or on your business or frankly anything in between. So until next time, I wish you continued success and hope that you'll allow me to be a key part of your success.
For more information about Michael and the services he provides, go to insuringlawyer.com. Also, you can get a free copy of his book, The Naked Lawyer, by visiting insuringlawyeurbook.com or by calling 24/7 to hear a recording at 866-843-0101 to get a copy mailed to you today. And remember, make absolutely sure that you never, ever are left totally naked without the necessary insurance. See you next time.